Welcome back to day 9 of our final exam unit. For today, our goal of the day, given a word problem, you'll be able to set up a quadratic equation and solve. So here are the steps we're going to follow today. Step number 1, we're going to draw a picture or we're going to write a let statement. Then you're going to set up an equation and finally you're going to solve. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to jump right into it. There's only 4 problems today, so let's give it a good try. So let's take a look. Number 1, the length of a rectangle is 1 more than twice its width. If the area of the rectangle is 55 square inches, find the length. Okay, so remember from our goal number 1, or step number 1, draw a picture or a let statement. So let's take a look here. For this question, can we draw a picture? Yes, we can. So it says it is a rectangle. So I'm going to draw a rectangle. There we go. It says the length of the rectangle is 1 more than twice the width. So they're not explaining the width to us at all. So that's going to be your x. Now the length is 1 more than twice the width. So 1 more is going to be plus 1. And it's 1 more than what? Twice the width. If the width is x, that means this is going to be 2x. And we've got it. Now it says if the area of the rectangle is 55 square inches, find the length. Your keyword here is area. So we have to write down the area formula. So area equals length times width. Okay, so they're telling us that the area is 55. So underneath the word area, we put 55. Equals the length is a binomial. It goes into parentheses, 2x plus 1. The width is just x. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to distribute that x into the parentheses. So 55 equals 2x squared plus x. Now my x is squared. That means I'm going to have 2 answers. If I have 2 answers, that means I need to set it equal to 0. So that way I can factor it or use my quadratic equation. Okay, so now it comes time that we have to factor. Now I'm looking at this has a coefficient of a number greater than 1. So instead of factoring, I'm going to go off to the side and I'm going to use my quadratic formula. So here my a value is 2, my b value is 1, and my c value is negative 55. All right, so over here we're going to go x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to plug it in. So our b is a 1, so we're going to go negative 1 plus or minus the square root of 1 squared minus 4. A is 2, c is negative 55 all over 2 times 1. All right, so let's go ahead and we can plug that in. So negative 1 just stays negative 1. Now I'm going to use my calculator to help me figure out what goes underneath the radical here. So I'm going to go 1 squared minus, and now we're going to go 4 times 2 times negative 55, and we get 441. Let's just double check and see if that's a perfect square, and it is. So we're going to get 21 all over 2. So then our 2 answers, here's what we're going to do. Negative 1 plus 21 divided by 2. And we get 10. So our first answer is going to be 10. And then for our second answer, we do negative 1 minus 21 divided by 2, and we get negative 11. All right, now it says find the length. Now, can we have a negative length? No. So we're going to cross that out and we're going to omit it. So that means my x is going to be equal to 10, but we're not quite done yet because it says find the length, and our length is 2x plus 1. So over here, 2x plus 1. Let's go ahead, plug it in. 2 times 10 is 20, plus 1 is going to be 21. And that is going to be our final answer. So here we have our length. All right, let's go ahead and let's try the second problem. If the square of a number is decreased by 24, the result is twice the number. Find the number. All right, here we can't draw a picture, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to use a let statement instead. So if the square of a number is decreased by 24, the result is twice the number. So we're only using one number. So I'm going to say let n equal the number. All right, so now that we have our variable n, let's see if we can write out the equation. If the square of a number, so the square of a number is n squared, is decreased by 24, so minus 24, the result, that means equals twice the number, 2n. All right, we have our equation. Now n is squared. If n is squared, that means we're going to have two answers. If we have two answers, we have to set this equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract over the 2n. N squared minus 2n minus 24 equals 0. Now we can factor this. So I set up my two sets of parentheses. And I'm going to go n and n. Now let's think of two numbers that multiply to negative 24, add to negative 2. So that's negative 6, positive 4. And then we tee it up. Over here, we're going to have n minus 6 equals 0. So n equals 6. Over here, n plus 4 equals 0. So then n equals negative 4. So we have two answers here. It doesn't tell us it has to be positive or negative, so both of those are correct. All right, question number 3. Okay, question 3. One number is 5 more than another. Their product is 66. Find the numbers. So here we have one number and then we have another number. That means we have two numbers. So we're going to have two let statements, but here they're describing one in terms of the other. So we don't have to have two separate variables. So we're going to say let n equal a number. And then it says one number is 5 more than the other. So 5 more would then be n plus 5 equals another number. So now that we have our two numbers, we can go on. So it says their product is 66. Now product means we're going to multiply. So let's go ahead. We have n times n plus 5 equals 66. Now we have our equation, so we can go ahead and solve. So I'm going to distribute that n. N squared plus 5n equals 66. Now n is squared. If n is squared, that means we have two answers. If we have two answers, we have to set this equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 66 to the other side. N squared plus 5n minus 66 equals 0. So now I'm going to factor this. So n and n. Multiply to negative 66, add to 5, so that's plus 11 minus 6. We tee it up. Here we're going to get n equals negative 11, and over here we're going to get n equals 6. Now, those are the first numbers, but it says find the numbers with an s, so now we have to find the second number. So here n plus 5 is going to give us 6, and over here n plus 5 is going to give us 11. And now we found our two sets of solutions. All right, let's flip to the back and try our last question for today. Okay, the larger of two numbers is 2 less than 3 times the smaller. If their product is 40, find the numbers. Okay, so we can't draw a picture, so we're going to start with our let statements. And here we have two numbers, a larger number and a smaller number. So I'm going to say let. The larger of two numbers is 2 less. I'm going to say let the smaller equal x because they're describing the larger, not the smaller. So that means we're going to say let the larger equal. The larger of two numbers is 2 less than 3 times the smaller. So 3 times the smaller, 2 less, and we've got it. Their product is 40. Find the numbers. So product means multiply. So 3x minus 2 times x equals 40. So I'm going to distribute the x. 3x squared minus 2x equals 40. X is squared, so I have to set this equal to 0. 3x squared minus 2x minus 40 equals 0. Okay, since our a value is bigger than 1, we're going to use our quadratic formula. So a equals 3, b equals negative 2, and c equals negative 40. So here we go. So x equals negative negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. All right, so this is going to become x equals, we're going to have a positive 2 plus or minus, and now I'm going to let the calculator do the work for me. So negative 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 40, and we get 484. I'm going to see if that's a perfect square. 484, and we get 22 it is, so I can put 22 there, all over 6. So then we're going to go 2 plus 22 divided by 6, and we get 4, so x equals 4, and x equals 2 minus 22 divided by 6. We get a fraction, so math fraction, we're going to get negative 10 all over 3. All right, and then we still have to find the larger, so then 3x minus 2, 3x minus 2, and let's take a look. So here we're going to get 12 minus 2 is 10, and over here I'm going to use my calculator, so 3 times negative 10 divided by 3 minus 2, we hit enter and we get negative 12, and those are going to be my two solutions. So ladies and gentlemen, this is all about solving quadratic word problems.